All right, in this video we are going to look at how to start your Zentangle landscape in Procreate. There are many different landscapes that you could use for a project like this. I'm going to show you one that is more hills and mountains, but you could certainly look at a beach or a city for inspiration as well. Now, if you choose to look at a photograph for inspiration, you need to keep in mind that you're just looking at the real basic spaces and you're not going to include all the details from that picture. You do need to make sure that you include a foreground, which is the part that is nearest to you in the picture. Fore basically means in front. You also need to make sure that you have a middle ground, which is the area that is between the foreground and the background in your picture. And finally, you need to make sure that you have something in the background of your picture. So in this one, for example, there are some distant mountains. So here are some other examples of landscapes that include the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. You can see there's a beach, a farm, a city, some mountains, and a couple that combine those things. All right, so we are going to create a landscape. We're going to use Procreate to do that. So if you want to start with Safari though and maybe type in landscape and then go to images, you can get lots of ideas this way. You want a landscape that has the foreground, middle ground, and background. So you do need to be thinking about that when you're looking through these photos. If you don't see all those parts to it, it's probably not a good picture to use as inspiration. You may also have a picture that you've taken or maybe someone's taken on a vacation that you might want to look at for inspiration, and that's great too. Now, once you have kind of figured out what kind of landscape you want to make, and it could be a cityscape, it doesn't have to be nature, then you're going to go to Procreate. And you're going to want to hit the plus sign to make a new canvas. Now, there are pre-selected sizes here for you to choose from, and those, I mean, you can use them. I sometimes make my own just to make sure that the resolution is the right resolution for what I'm doing. I could probably use the 8x10 for this, and that would be fine. Now, it shows up here. I had to pinch in a little bit. It shows up vertical. If you want it to be horizontal or landscape, you can just turn it with your fingers. You need 2 fingers to do that. So that's kind of up to you, which direction you want it to go. And then I would start with selecting the right brush. So my favorite for doing what we're doing is in inking. I like to use the Studio pen. It reminds me a lot of a Sharpie. And then set your color and make sure it's black. Now, once you've done those things, you can draw out your landscape. You are fine to use your finger to do this. You don't have to have a stylus or a pen. I do tend to use my Apple Pencil when I'm drawing, but you don't need one to do it. I'm going to just go ahead and make mine up here. So I'm going to kind of do like a rolling hills. Just kind of keep layering those hills in. Now once you've done, I think I'll get maybe a kind of a more of a rockier mountain here towards the back. Once you've got your foreground, so this is my foreground, your middle ground, which is your hills, and your background, you want to make sure probably that they go all the way to the edge too. I noticed that line stopped a little short. Then you can create something in the sky if you want. Now, if you want to create clouds that, you can decide the shape. A lot of times I like to do ones that are more flat on the bottom like that, and then kind of bumpier on the top. You also can create a sun. When you do that, you want to make the circle and then hold it at the end without lifting up. And then there should be this button that pops up if you held it long enough. It says edit shape. Right now I have what's called an ellipse. Okay, so it's a little bit more like an oval. If I click it over to a circle, now I have a perfect circle. So I could do that. And then once I'm done, I just kind of click off of that. Now, if you want to turn that into a moon, you could actually go and make the circle first and then create the line for the inside of the moon and then use your eraser tool to kind of eliminate that other part of the circle if you wanted to do something like a moon. But you do want to keep your spaces pretty simple overall because you're going to be filling them with Zentangle patterns. So you don't want a lot of little things. You could have a couple little things. I could put maybe a couple of trees in here and that would be fine. If I wanted to do that, those kinds of things would probably be okay. But once you start adding a lot of little stuff in, then you are gonna have a really hard time doing the patterns. So you want to kind of keep these bigger open spaces in your picture, whatever you decide you want it to be. And then we'll talk about the next step as soon as you're done doing this.